Hi there folks, it's David Donovan from Independent Australia. I'm here on the ground in Fadden in advance of the by-election that's happening here on Saturday because Stuart Robert resigned from Parliament. The much derided, allegedly corrupt politician that I in fact went to school with. Anyway, we're going to speak to perhaps some of the candidates who are here at the pre-polling booth and maybe some of the locals to see what the mood is on the ground here in Fadden. So tell me, how's you feeling about pre-polling so far?
It's been busy. It's been very, very interesting to see Labor and Liberal here, and obviously we are here to challenge both of them. We're here to say that there is a real opposition here in the Australian Democrats, and it's time to consider us and time to look at our housing policy, our economic policies and our defence policies.
I think things are going very well. There's a real appetite for change on the ground. People are not happy with the representation they've had, and they're ready to send a very strong message to the LNP. And there will be change, I believe, on Saturday night. There will be good change, positive change for the people of Fadden.
So polling is going quite well. So voter numbers are beginning to increase during the week. So I think people are realising that they do have an opportunity here to express their views about things that are happening in their local community, not just the big issues that we've seen recently in the news, but also the day-to-day things in the local community.
It's going pretty good actually. I've been quite encouraged by the constant people that are coming through, and they're actually saying, we're voting for One Nation. There's been a bit of a shift, I believe, over the last year too, from last year's federal election to this year. I'm quite encouraged.
On the pre-poll, it's obviously hard when you're a minor party, but everyone we talk to, we've had a lot of conversations with voters, and a lot of people do like the sound of our policies. Yep. But unfortunately, as a minor party, you don't always get the opportunity to speak about them. So this is a really good opportunity. So thanks, David. Yeah.
Trying to speak to Labor, to the Labor Fadden candidate for the by-election here on Saturday, Letitia Del Fabro. And unfortunately was unsuccessful. They're a bit busy. We've sort of seemed to have spoken to most other people. Also, it seems Andrew Giles, the Labor Minister, is here. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to talk to him either, sadly. Bit disappointing because really wanted to see what Letitia had to say. I think that Letitia's got a real red-hot go of winning this seat, from what I've heard. Letitia's actually come over here. Looks like I've sold you short there, Letitia. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah,
Can I first ask you how you feel that the mood on the ground here is in Fadden, out at Helensvale, the pre-polling?
Yeah. Well, we're really glad that it's not raining like it was last year, and we've had some really great energy with our volunteers and lots of Labor people coming out to talk about good Labor policies. And we had we even had a visit from the Prime Minister, so it's been a really great time for us. Yeah.
What do you think the Greens could add to the mix for the voters of Fadden?
Well, I think the Greens are looking to create positive change in the community. It's not all about the Greens, it's about the community. So we're looking to create these positive changes, whether it's the big ticket issues like banning corporate donations to politics, or whether it's the on the ground issues like more affordable housing, or getting dental and mental health into Medicare, freezing interest rates, freezing rents, bringing energy back into private ownership to reduce the costs, all those things on the ground that will make a difference in people's lives.
So far, as most people have already figured out, prohibition hasn't worked. It's just driven everyone back into the black market and underground. So we'd like to see cannabis obviously legalised and regulated across the board for health reasons and for social reasons as well. We think it is a better alternative to other medications, and people should have the right to use it as a first preference rather than pharmaceuticals at an affordable cost.
Main issues, I think, are corruption and the behaviour of the former member Stuart Robert, and the litany of transgressions that he brought to this community, and the fact that he's, the legacy of robo-debt has impacted this community greatly. There have been a lot of robo-debt victims within the Fadden electorate, and you know, people have just had an absolute gutful, and they want change.
I believe that they've had enough of the Labor and Liberal fiascos that are going on, and also that Pauline Hanson has been she's been around for over 20 years, and she's just kept to her word, and she says it as it is. And you may like it, you may not like it, but I think there's a general consensus that people are starting to go, well, a lot of what she's saying is actually coming to pass, and so they're actually going, okay, we're going to give One Nation a go.
Well, the Citizens Party stands very strongly behind banking reform, and that's hugely important for everyone in Australia, but particularly at the moment you notice that all of the major banks are closing down a lot of rural and regional banks. So even in outer suburbs of Brisbane, they're closing down banking centres. So particularly here in Fadden, we've got a lot of senior citizens, and they're going to have to travel further and further to do their banking. They're being pressured to do internet banking, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. Our rights to cash are being taken away. Not just slowly anymore, it's becoming a really rapid thing.
The main objective for us has really been about talking about the good things that the Albanese Labor government's been doing since they got elected last year, and that's certainly why I put up my hand again, because you know, things like improving childcare, Medicare, aged care, these are all the things that make Australia a great place to live, and they're really important for families and communities. So that's really where I'm coming from, I guess.
Do you think that there is a strong understanding of the allegations against Stuart Robert in this electorate from what you have seen standing here at the polling booth?
Yes, I think there is, because a lot of people are bringing up, you know, the $38,000 internet bill. They're bringing up the Nimrod scandal from years back. The Sunland scandal's been mentioned. Stuart Robert's name's coming up a lot. He's left a legacy in this, and it's not a good one. People have followed him, and you know, there are a lot of allegations, and as you say, he's denied any responsibility in a multitude of different allegations, and they are to be tested in a court of law. But definitely the feeling is people have just had an absolute gutful.
We're back here because of that. A year later, it's costing the taxpayers money to have this by-election, and it's all coming out about, you know, what that robo-debt has cost in way of lives, in way of just the government's no-care attitude towards the people that it represents.
Well, I think the voters of Fadden are particularly dissatisfied with not only corruption, but also the fact that they've had to come and vote in a by-election because the previous member didn't stick around till the next election, so as I say, the focus should be on the voters. But corruption is a huge problem, and it's not unique to the previous member for Fadden, unfortunately. In some ways, they perhaps became more prominently known for it, which is probably better than having it hidden away. So the Greens, for a long time, we've been looking at not only we for a decade or more, we were asking for an independent anti-corruption commission. We're finally going to have one.
This week, there's been a little bit of news about the Robo-Debt Royal Commission. That there's been a sealed chapter that we still don't know who the two parties, who the two MPs or ministers are that were mentioned. What's your attitude towards that, given that the previous candidate, Stuart Robert, was closely involved as Social Services Minister?
Yeah, so I think no one expected to be going back to work the polls this soon after the election last year. It's only just 12 months ago. So I'm really pleased to see that report being handed down, and it was an interesting reading, and if anyone gets an opportunity, definitely get in and read that chapter 1. But what I'm really hoping that we can do is to put that compassion back into human services, and I know that that's what the Albanese Labor government is doing, because no one deserves robo-debt, and it's an indictment on our history, really.
Yeah, terrific. What about the opposing LNP candidate, Cameron Caldwell? Do you have any opinions about him?
I don't know Cameron personally, but what I do know as a local mum and a registered nurse is that the things that are important to me in my community, education, healthcare, aged care, childcare, they're also important to the people that I meet every day in this electorate. So yeah, those are priorities for me.
That's great.
Mr Corbell's always supported Stuart Robert. He still sits in the same party room as Stuart Robert, as I've said. The LNP hasn't announced that Stuart Robert has left. And Mr Corbell's been never once publicly spoken out against Stuart Robert, never ever raised one word of concern about it, where I've been fighting Stuart Robert and these allegations and the list of transgressions that he's had. I've been doing that for 5 years, and that speaks to my character and the fact Mr Caldwell has not said one word publicly against Stuart Robert, and all the grief he's brought to his party. That speaks to Mr Caldwell's character.
Now, when I say that, I don't speak about only one party. It's both parties that I believe need to be held accountable. We've come a long way in 15 years whereby we've had no one holding them to account. There is no coherent voice in the Senate nor in the lower house. And that's what we're all about getting that coherent voice back into the Senate and also the lower house.
So there has been some talk that there's been a bit of media come around, and they've spoken mostly to the LNP and a little bit to Labor, but not to any other candidates. Have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, they were here on Friday, the big fanfare with Barnaby Joyce, and I'm not sure who the other one was. Yeah, and I actually went over to Channel 9 and I approached them and I said, well, you know, are you going to give One Nation the same time Malcolm Roberts is going to be here on Monday, definitely? And I actually, said to them, will you come and, give us fair time? And they more or less said, oh, you have to do a press release and let us know, and then it's up to the bosses of Channel 9 whether we come. And Malcolm was here all day yesterday and nothing. So
last Monday, when pre-poll opened on the 3rd of July, Channel 9, Channel 7 and the Gold Coast Bulletin turned up. They took a photo of the assembled candidates. Almost all 13 candidates were present at the time. They only interviewed the LNP member. In fact, they did a clandestine press conference a block away with Laura Gerber, a state LNP member, and none of the other independent candidates or minors or micro parties were invited. On Saturday, Barnaby Joyce was here at the Helensvale pre-poll, and commercial TV networks, Channel 9, Channel 7, ABC turned up. And from another candidate has told me today that ABC was instructed to only speak to the LNP and Labor. So there's 13 candidates and 11 of us are not getting a fair hearing in mainstream media. But, thankfully we have independent media to rely on. And as I've always said, if you want the truth, then go to independent media, because you won't get it from News Corp, you won't get it from Channel 9, and you won't get it from Channel 7.
So just to reiterate, you're saying that the ABC journalist that came out here was told, or told you at least, that they were instructed not to interview any other candidates apart from the two major parties?
That's correct. That's what I was told by a fellow candidate who approached the ABC and asked for an interview so that the people of Fadden can make an informed choice on by-election day by getting to know every candidate in this by-election. And my fellow candidate was told by one of the ABC staffers that they were not interviewing all the candidates, only the LNP and Labor. And that's very, disappointing behaviour from our national broadcaster. I expected better. I thought the ABC would at least be fair and give all candidates a fair hearing, but unfortunately they seem to be acting like News Corp.
What I do see here is the problem is, and this is, I was so glad to be able to talk to you, the major media stations, and I'll name names, you can edit them out if you want, but the Channel 9 news crew, the Channel 7 news crew and the ABC news crew came down, and they showed absolutely no interest in any of the candidates except the Liberal Party, the LNP candidate. They squeezed in a little bit for the Labor candidate at the end, but they did not offer any other party the chance to even say hello on camera. And that happened on 2 occasions. It happened at Runaway Bay and it happened again here. It made me very angry, because we are supposed to be a nation of equality where everyone gets a fair go, where everyone in politics gets to state their message, and let the voters decide.
Sorry.
You're right, mate. It's not up to me or to you as individuals to decide what should be shown to the people. The people should be shown everything and be allowed to make a fair choice.
I think with a 10.6 margin, percent margin, that it goes without saying that there's going to be more attention to the LNP candidate.
There has been a bit of controversy over the years, as you well know, regarding Pauline and Indigenous and some other races. Do you feel that this might sort of label you again?
No, I don't think it will, because Pauline has spent a lot of time up in the Indigenous communities of Australia, and it's well noted, and even though mainstream media continue to label her, and that's all it is. It's just their how can I even say this? It's just their inability, I suppose, or their need to just belittle her all the time and try and make light of anything that One Nation does, and just try and make it out to be only a two-party race. So it's all about defamation, I suppose, in a way, of defaming, can't even get that word out, sorry. Defaming her. Yeah, and just, and just lies. It's just been constant lies, to try and people just come down and they say things, and we're like, well, where are you getting this information from? Like, can you actually prove that what you're saying is true? And a lot of people say, oh, no, because it's just what it is.
This idea that one person, whether it's Murdoch or Zuckerberg or anyone else that owns one of these, mega platforms, should be allowed to influence the messages that are on there, I think that's a terrible idea. Somehow the government has to regulate them to see that everyone gets a fair voice, that free speech is protected and promoted. Nobody wants crazies on TV, but I haven't seen any crazies around here. So there's absolutely no reason for every single person's message to be presented. We're all different, we've all got different messages, but every single person here is trying to make a better Australia.
All right, is there anything else that you'd like to say to the voters of Fadden before you go to the polls on Saturday?
Well, I think that my main message really is that we can't have another term of an LNP in this electorate, and we could do a lot better if we had a strong Labor representation in the Albanese Labor government. So, yeah, vote Labor.
I think to the voters of Fadden, please choose widely, and apart from filling in every box on your ballot paper, I think the Greens are offering solutions for the cost of living, climate change, also, and they're stopping corruption, and it could go on. The environment, as we're saying, green, of course, I studied biological science myself at university, so the environment's always been a strong thing for myself. But then I worked in administration and healthcare and education and cross accommodation and mental health. So the Greens are looking for basically, as a shirt says, a future for all of us, and investing in things like free TAFE and university, because it not only invests in the future of our nation, but it means that each individual can reach their full potential.
It's been fantastic, actually. Even people that are voting for the big two have come up and had a conversation how, they'll secretly tell me, oh, that really works and good on you and that. So I think the reception's been really good. And the one thing that we all talk about is the affordability for medical patients, because they just can't afford it. And we would like to see them have a home grow option with a licence, or someone to be able to compassionately grow for them. And that would be the ultimate goal, I think.
My main thing would be to remember Robojet and send a message that the representation that we've been getting from particularly the LNP is not good enough, and we deserve better. And so look up all the candidates and make an informed decision, and let's vote for positive change, because we just need to send a message that this sort of corruption and shonky behaviour is unacceptable, and we deserve better.
All right, so Independent Australia, we spoke to almost all the candidates. Not James Taylor here from the Australian Federation Party, I didn't see him. Also not the LNP, although we tried. The candidate wasn't here and nobody else was prepared to go on record. But generally I think we spoke to most of the other 13 candidates, and it's very interesting. My views, I think it's going to be a tighter election this time on Saturday here in Fadden. Whether it's going to be a change in the party that holds this seat, I'm not so sure, but still it's very interesting to hear the views of all the different candidates. Thanks very much. Signing out of here, Dave Donovan for Independent Australia.